You're listening to JM Partners Atlanta Market Eavesdrop, a quick real estate update from Jerry Metcalf Partners, real estate agents on the ground in Atlanta, talking about what it's like, what to expect, the pros, the cons, and what to consider to align yourself and your loved ones for the best opportunities. All right, everybody, it's JM Partners, 3 things to know on the ground in Atlanta about residential real estate. But first, Adam Vickers, Bridget Posey, and Jerry Metcalf. Hey, y'all. So let's get started. Last week, we talked about 3 things to know about the ultra high net worth population and what it has to do and how it's driving the market in Atlanta. We defined, go back and listen to that last week, everybody, because we defined high net worth is net worth of over 1 million. Ultra high net worth is a net worth of between 5 and 30 million, which is a really strong driver of markets. And ultra high net worth is a net worth of over 30 million. But going into this week, we're talking about, so last week we did talk about, the last thing we ended with was how the population, so the top 10 cities of ultra high net worth, those cities, 7 of those are huge business feeders, or huge market feeders to Atlanta. So people are coming in droves from markets with ultra high net worth industries and ultra high net worth people, which is driving our market. We elaborated on what that's doing in Atlanta. We're going to elaborate a little bit more this week on what that's doing in Atlanta. So number 1, what that's doing in Atlanta is homes over 2 million are literally like, I kind of call it skyrocketing. We're going to share some stats with you on that. Number 2 on that, by the way, Atlanta is the number 10 largest, in the top 10 largest economies in our country and in the top 20 in the world. That, along with our international airport, is a huge driver in this residential market right now. And number 3, last but not least, getting a little micro, but the undercurrent that continues to drive our market is the Hollywood industry. The Hollywood industry, we are in the top 10. I think it's more like top 3. We haven't gotten those specific numbers yet, of cities where films and movies are shot. So on that, let's go back to the luxury market and home selling in our market, in a home market where over 1 million was kind of rare. We're getting a significant increase in homes over 2.
I remember those days where I was like, that's hard in our market. Speaking to other markets,
a few years ago, like 7 houses a year were selling for over 2 million, just 2 million. Now, Adam, give us some numbers.
Well, yes. I mean, you mentioned like how all these markets are feeding into Atlanta. And what that's doing is it's driving this crazy market over $2 million. So just in April alone, 42 homes in Atlanta sold for over $2 million. And when you think about that, that's a huge number, being that the next highest number was 30 in the last 10 years.
Ever.
And that 30 was in November of last year. And in March alone, we had 29. So those numbers are more than double of the homes over $2 million that we've ever seen sold in the last 10 years in Atlanta. So it is driving like crazy. It's booming. All these markets that are feeding into Atlanta are helping drive this. And so are all the other factors that you mentioned.
Exactly. Number 2. What's up?
There's a good chance that, I mean, I know we can pull the numbers if we dig deep, but for the most part, we see current numbers up to 10 years. That pretty accurate. We have to pull anyhow. So, but it's possibly ever like Atlanta. It
is ever. No, it is ever.
Mark that
It is ever.
Ever.
No, 42 million is the most ever. And 42 home sales over 2 million is the most by over double. Like 20 is the other highest number in April. I mean, like it is the highest. We're just like, okay, y'all. Anyway, number 2. So like the luxury market is really, really kind of skyrocketing in Atlanta. And number 2, and there's our evidence, just a little nugget. Number 2 is we are the 10th largest economy in the country and in the 20 largest economies in the world of cities having largest economies. So looking at that, so then we talked about last week with ultra high net worth was what industries were driving that. And the industries driving that were largely, believe it or not, banking and finance. The next one would be business and consumer services. After that, in the United States, or North America, I should say, nonprofits. And then technology and healthcare. Banking and finance is 22% in North America. It's actually more in Asia and Europe, everybody. Business and consumer services, 18% in North America. Nonprofit and social organizations, we're the only continent in which that's actually an industry, or one that's driving the ultra high net worth, which is interesting. That's 11.5. Technology is 5.3%, and healthcare is 6.5%. And by the way, healthcare and technology do overlap quite a bit, which are huge in Atlanta. But that being said, with that driving the ultra high net worth, and we are the 10th largest economy in the country, we also have diverse corporations that are hiring. Bridget, did you want to add anything to that before I start sharing some numbers on this, on the stats on the companies in Atlanta?
I'll let you share the stats. I just had spoken to, that's what we're seeing as boots on the ground. That's what's coming to Atlanta, are the companies that are bringing people here, and or people are choosing to move here who can still continue to work wherever their headquarters are, but they want to move here. They like the climate. They like what Atlanta offers. Most people who move here agree that they really enjoy what Atlanta offers. It has something for everyone.
We had even talked about, so quote affordability index, go back a few episodes, everybody, on determining when you're doing market trajectories on prices and where they're going. Normally you can look at an affordability index, which means the average sales price in a market versus the average income in a market. That number in Atlanta has usually been the affordability index is really strong. In Atlanta, it's still good, but what's happening is it's actually kind of the affordability index, the sales price and the income is kind of dropped below what you need to afford that average sales price in Metro Atlanta. And what we said is not, usually that's indicative of prices dropping in new markets everywhere, but especially Atlanta. It's not, because we've got people coming from places like New York City, making New York City incomes, and they're no longer basing those incomes on the city they live in. They're basing those incomes on the jobs and where the job is, not where the person lives. Bridget, you actually had educated me on that last week. So I'm just resharing Bridget's information, but talk about fascinating.
It's fascinating.
And then
just that the Georgia companies who have been paying certain salaries are going to have to start increasing those incomes because the property values are increasing rapidly.
Well, now here's something interesting too, but what's driving the economy here is so we weren't going to share this today, y'all, but I have to. Daniel shared this with us, but go ahead, Bridget.
No, the different company. I think you're going to speak to the different companies. Go ahead. Do you have the list, or is that what?
I'm going to speak to, well, let me go through the companies and then talk about who they're hiring and why they're coming. And then we'll go to number 3. The companies are Chick-fil-A. So a lot of the headquarter companies here, Chick-fil-A, UPS, Mercedes. I'm looking at a list now. Mercedes is the one I just know. Everybody knows why, but Coca-Cola, Mercedes, Home Depot, Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines is the biggest employer here. Publix is actually a huge employer in Atlanta. AT&T Mobility, and then we've got is it State Farm that's headquartered here? I'm gonna have to eat my words, but I'm pretty positive it's State Farm. My husband's gonna be like, seriously, Jerry, you knew this. And there are over 1,250 multinational corporations in Atlanta. We've talked about this before, but a huge driving factor in Atlanta is not only, we've talked about a lot about the diversity initiative, that there are more historically Black colleges and universities in Atlanta. There are also just more educated people in Atlanta. We just pulled this information. Daniel, one of our new team members, part of his job is research. In Atlanta, 45% of people over 25 are college educated. In most cities, it's about 20 to 25 to 28%. So that's also a driving factor for these companies. So you've got the ultra high net worth is coming here from last week, but that is then also driving the entire economy of Atlanta, which is going to continue to drive our values up relative, I believe, to other cities. Anything y'all want to add before we hit on the last one?
I don't think so. I think you got it.
Go ahead. This is a big factor too. Go ahead.
Last one is, people talk about this because it's not listed as like a huge thing. Like it's not one of the big, the ultra high net worth aren't in this. It's not labeled as one of these industries, but it's huge for Atlanta. And it's a industry that drives wealth, is filming.
They don't stay here. Well, some do. I mean, but some
do actually. But there are a lot of second home purchases here.
True. That's true.
Which, if you think about that changes the affordability index.
That's true.
And that also changes the supply and demand component.
Do we mention what we're speaking about? Talk about the movie. Did you ever say it? The film industry and the music?
Yeah, that's what we were just saying. We got a lot going on.
You actually said like Hollywood.
Good. Well, yeah, music and film, right? But it's film. We are actually named in the top 10 cities for filming music, the music and film industry. So for that industry, a lot of people are coming in here and buying second homes here in that industry. A lot of people coming and buying homes to rent them. It's driving rent prices up. Rent prices getting driven up. Did you call it rent prices? Rent rates being driven up.
We learned that yesterday.
Drive sales prices up.
Right.
Yeah.
We learned that yesterday that basically they're having to pay even more to rent, whereas in Atlanta they could come here and the film industry could rent certain rental properties for less, and so then it was more appealing. But now those have all almost doubled, I believe. I think it went from, it was like 1,800 to 2,400.
The tax incentives to be here, and it's still relatively inexpensive. So it's like that just like perpetuates on itself, which is great for the Atlanta market. So I'm going to sum it up. Number one, the luxury market is getting driven up over 2 million. Like literally stats are unbelievable. Double the number of homes over 2 million in the month of April 2021 than ever before, and the most sales in April ever before, and the most sales ever. So over 2 million. I'm like, I couldn't believe that stat when we pulled it. Number two, we are the largest economy in one of the largest economies, top 10. Our city is one of the largest economies in the country by gross domestic product, by the way, and top 20 in the world. And again, number three, the music and film industry is most definitely driving all markets across, whether it's rentals, sales, which they drive one another in the Atlanta market. So that sums it up. Any final thoughts? Adam's always got like his one-liner, like profound comment he'll make.
You've got me speechless today.
You talk about Ozark.
We have to talk about Ozark.
I feel like it was almost in my backyard, and that was exciting.
So here's the thing about Ozark. Like, I'm like, did y'all see?
I don't even watch it, but
y'all have to. Right. So the last episode, there were 3 seasons, and I heard it was canceled. I was like, I'm not going to ruin it. But for those of you, like, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, make your comments, because that last episode, I was like, and then I heard it was canceled. I was like, this is just wrong. I'm so excited they're coming back. Except it's kind of addictive, that show. Adam, have you seen it?
Oh, I love it.
Did you see the last episode?
Of course I did.
Oh, could you believe it? Okay, so we're gonna do They're
not paying us to say this, by the way.
No, unfortunately. So we're gonna do one of Kevin's who was on the show with Center State Mortgage. We have to do this. What is like your one show that was like overly addictive? Like it was so addictive you're like, never again. I have mine.
Most recent was Big Little Lies. Is that what it was with Reese Witherspoon? That was a good one.
I can't even
I had
really
to watch it, and I don't binge watch anything. Clearly, I don't watch TV.
Adam's like, binge. I don't do that. Adam's above that. What's that?
They were such great actors.
Yellowstone was mine, the most recent.
I haven't seen either one.
Well, you should see Yellowstone.
What's it about?
It's about it's based in Montana, but it's incredible. You just have to watch it.
I love that you didn't say.
See, Adam keeping the mystery. He like won't even tell us.
I mean, I don't want to give it away. You gotta watch it.
So Breaking Bad was that's even cliche to say that, but seriously, Breaking Bad. My husband watched 7 episodes, and I finally sat down and started watching it. I was like, I'm not watching that. And then I was so addicted. I was like, I'm never watching TV again. That was like, too much. Anyway, there you go. 3 things to know in Atlanta. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the J.M. Partners Atlanta Market Eavesdrop. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and share with your friends. who might be moving or who just want to keep up with the latest on the Atlanta residential market. You can find us anytime online at jnpartners.io. That's jnpartners.io.